Now, after talks that lasted all night, European farm ministers announced today that they had agreed on a set of changes to the controversial Common Agricultural Policy. They want to shift subsidies towards conservation, they say, and reduce the traditional EU incentives for farmers to produce more. It would be the biggest reform of farm policy in Europe for 5 years, as Jeremy Cook explains.
Farming, an industry central to our lives and welfare. So crucial that across Europe, agriculture is still subsidised at huge expense to the taxpayer. Indeed, farm subsidies account for 45% of the EU budget. That's almost £40 billion a year and works out at £557 for every family across the UK. Critics say it's wrong that taxpayers support wealthy farmers. The royal family's estates, for example, receive hundreds of thousands of pounds in subsidy.
It might be better to have a system where you get paid according to how much good you do, how much land conservation you do, what you're doing with your woodlands, your wetlands, that kind of thing. The things that the public values, that's where we should be putting the money, not just handing it out to people on the basis of how much land they own.
And today, farmers have been getting what for many of them is unwelcome news from Brussels, that they will receive less subsidy linked to producing food and more for generally looking after the countryside.
Well, this is a beetle bank.
It's all aimed at making more farms look more like this. The RSPB runs Grange Farm as a commercial enterprise, but it's also state-of-the-art in terms of conservation. For instance, providing habitat for skylarks.
These days it's moving more and more away from direct subsidies towards payments for the environment, for the types of things that the market doesn't reward farmers for, and so it's right that the government does, because we all enjoy a countryside which looks nice, produces clean water and has got lots of wildlife.
Payments for environmental schemes are now set to double over the next few years, from 5% of overall subsidy to 10%, and many believe this is just the beginning. The long-term trend is clear. Subsidies are moving away from food production and more into stewardship of the countryside, which it's argued is good for all of us. But still there is resistance. These European tobacco farmers are furious at losing subsidy, the sort of opposition which makes CAP reform so painfully slow. Jeremy Cook, BBC News, Cambridgeshire.